5 questions today on NC State wing guard Terrance Arceneaux. As always, I have Jake McSwain here with me. And if you haven't done so, before we get going, subscribe below at Inside Pack Sports here on YouTube. And also check out our website, www.insidepacksports.com. Jake, let's jump into it. Terrance Arceneaux, one of NC State's most coveted gets out of the transfer portal. So that kind of funnels right into our first question. What was the initial role when signed by NC State? I projected a massive role for Terrance Arceneaux. I thought this was a player, NC State landed out of Houston who really, he's been kind of waiting for an opportunity to have a massive role. And look, Houston's one of the top programs in the country, Jake. He was in the rotation there. He was getting minutes. And so for him to go into transfer portal and end up at NC State, you had to think he had an expectation that he would have a much larger role, at minimum, an opportunity for a larger role going into this year, because I think that's one of the reasons, and we know some of the other reasons. NIL, everyone plays a role in the reasons to go into the portal. But for a player of his caliber, you had to think opportunity played a big role in this. So I'm thinking massive opportunity for him at NC State.
Yeah, huge opportunity. And I think for me, when I saw that he was in the fold, the picture started to get really clear with what NC State was trying to do around positional versatility and flexibility and guarding and flexing guys up and down, guarding various lineups, just because he brings so much defensive versatility to your team. Like, he's going to come in and be one of the ACC's premier defenders, like from night one, in my opinion. So I think just having someone that could be a stopper on the wing, as well as, we did it in a film review on him. He has a sneaky offensive game too. So I think he's going to wear a lot of different hats for NC State, or at least that was the expectation when he originally signed.
Yeah, I think when you look at Arceneaux, what about now? That's question number 2 for us always in this feature. Not much has changed for me. I think you project him to be a wing guard. I view him now as a potential starter for NC State. I think the thing is, you've gone out and added more proven, I don't want to say quality because folks will take that the wrong way, but more proven pieces in Darrion Williams and Ven-Allen Lubin, to where maybe you don't need the offensive breakout that he potentially could have given you. But I think his defense plays, right? And it translates over to any lineup. And so if I were coaching NC State and I were crafting a roster, he'd be one of my locked-in pieces. Because, Jake, I feel like, okay, well, I can view it like I've got a guy who, if I want to assign him to the best perimeter player on the other team, I can. If I want to have a player who I feel like is a dynamic secondary defender who's going to be a communicator and really anchor kind of the wing aspect of my defense, you have that taken care of with Arceneaux, and then you just fill the other pieces in around him. So for me, what about now? I view him as a potential starter for NC State here going into the season.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you on all those points, because from where I sit, I view him as a starter simply because of the type of pressure he takes off of the other guys that are going to be in that starting group, especially on the defensive end. Like, you're letting a Darrion Williams have a bit of a safety net where, if there is a really good kind of stretch 4, and that's where Darrion Williams is starting, he's not having to necessarily guard that guy. Like, you can give him some spells and some breaks, and I think that's really valuable. I also think the shooting, the more I dug into that, like, he was a pretty decent shooter over the course of his time with Houston. Like, the percentages bear that out. He can do some stuff off the dribble. So I think his Arsenal and Arceneaux are very hard to say back and forth, but that is, I think, rounded enough that it's going to bring something to NC State's offense and defense.
Arceneau's Arsenal. There you go. Yeah, that was not easy. Question number 3, best case scenario for Terrance Arceneaux. I would say elite level 3-and-D wing, right? And what I mean by that is you bring him in, and he's doing what you expect defensively. But what if he gives you a year where you're just with the playmaking of Copeland and Holloman and Williams, you're creating just open catch and shoot opportunities for him, where he gives you a 42% season from 3, right? Just getting a lot of wide open kick out 3-pointers, to where his shooting transfers over to at a high level, to where now if I'm an NBA team, I'm looking at this guy like, a legit draftable prospect because the defense is there. All the advanced metrics on his defense are elite. If he comes out and has a big shooting year, and we both, I think you probably feel like me, the opportunity is going to be there for him to get open shots with the way these lineups likely are going to be crafted. If he knocks down shots at a high clip, he's going to be an extremely valuable piece for NC State.
Yeah, I mean, ending the season as an NBA prospect is certainly a ceiling, and it's not far-fetched. I mean, this is a guy who has had some NBA hype in the past. He's been on some mock drafts in the past. We got to remember he's coming off of an Achilles tear that previous to last year, like he came back last year. But to put that even a year behind him, and I think going to an offense that's likely going to be much more free-flowing and fast-paced than what he was running at Houston, can only benefit him. And to your point about the lineups, I think you're going to see a bit of an expanded offensive profile from him. I really like what he did with the ball in his hands some at Houston, and I think he's going to have the opportunity to do that more under Will Wade, especially when you consider the fact that he'll be getting the opposing team's probably third or fourth best guard, depending on the lineup that's out there matched up with him. So it's going to really give him some room to work and exploit whatever defenses want to give him.
Worst case scenario. I think the worst case scenario for Terrance Arceneaux is tied into the versatility of this roster. And what I mean by that is this roster is deep enough to where State doesn't have to play a certain way. And the way that ultimately ends up maybe playing out best for them could potentially have them playing another guy in the slot we might have for him, if that makes sense. Like, think about it like this. What if they want to play Quadir Copeland as a 3 and have 2 ball handlers out there with Copeland and Holloman? Mm-hmm. Or what if they want to play Darrion Williams as a 3? Or what if Matthew Abel and Paul McNeil are both too good to keep off the court and you want to play both of them? Like, there are options to how you want to put a lineup out there that don't have to include Terrance Arceneaux. And I think that's the worst case scenario for him is one of those options. And this, Will Wade and his staff have been very open about how analytical they are approaching their roster, their lineups, all those different things. They're going to have point per play lineups that grade out best that they're going to be looking to feature. Oh yeah. And so it could be one of those lineups don't feature him, even though player-wise, maybe he's giving you exactly what you want to get from him.
Yeah, and I think the one area of concern for me is just like, I know I've spent the last 10 minutes at this point praising Terrance Arceneaux's offense and the growth that he could potentially see here next year. But I think there is also a chance that it falls flat and that he maybe regresses a little bit. Maybe the shooting on a slightly higher volume doesn't hold up. And then it becomes a real tough decision on, does the defensive benefits you get from his game not outweigh the offensive kind of hole that it can create? So, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. But to me, it's like the floor, if we're talking about that discussion, is still just like a lockdown defender that you can deploy on the opposing team's best player and someone that knows team defense intimately, right? Like, I mean, you don't have a role at Houston if you don't know how to incorporate yourself within a team defense. So his floor is still a very valuable piece in a lesser way than we talked about Darrion Williams being in a similar fashion to that, but still like a role exists for someone of that caliber on defense.
What is our final projection for Terrance Arceneaux? Jake, you coach like I do basketball. A player with his skill set is so hard for me to keep off the floor as a coach. Mm-hmm. Like, I love having guys that play the way he plays. And what I mean by that is they're defensive minded, they're tough, they're gritty, they're still good enough to not hurt you offensively. Guys like that as coaches you love. And so I think my final projection is he's going to be too valuable to keep off the floor. Like, I think the stuff that he provides from an analytical aspect, and we know the staff covets that, if that continues, he's going to play. Yeah, he's going to play. And is it going to be 35 minutes a night? No, probably not. But I think you could lock him in for 25 minutes a night and he give you a lot on both ends of the floor. I think that the thing that's going to be funny with him to track during the season, he's going to do stuff that casual fans aren't going to understand or notice. And so you'll look at his numbers and some may be like, why is this guy playing so much? He doesn't give you – because you know how it is. There's sometimes you hear – like, I know a lot of kids, for instance, they go straight to scoring. Like, oh, well, this guy's not scoring 12, 15 points a night. Why is he playing so much? Well, I think he gives you so much more that it's going to extend past that.
Oh yeah, he'll be the first target of, either Paul McNeil or Matthew Abel comes in and drops 20 points off the bench, and it's going to be, why are we not starting them? And it's because Terrance Arceneaux
has the best defensive efficiency on the team.
He defends the off-ball shooter on a pick and roll better than anybody on the team, and it's not even close. But you're not looking at that. I think, to your point, James, from coaching and being a part of putting lineups together, at the end of the day, you're going to put guys on the floor that you trust and that you think are capable of winning games. And you look at Terrance Arceneaux's resume throughout his career, and he's been a part of winning teams. He's accepted roles. He's performed, and I think you just trust him. So I think it's a rock solid, steady going force that's going to be on this team. If I had to, I don't know what numbers tied to that because I don't know how the offensive share is going to go, but I can say I think his role will be persistent throughout the year.
And Terrance is a player who I believe has multiple years of eligibility remaining, which is always important right now. I mean, he's a guy, he was a redshirt sophomore last year at Houston. So you've got multiple years with him. So this is a guy who we look at McNeil and Abel in terms of what they can give you in the future, right? Because you've got Darrion Williams, Ven-Allen Lubin, Copeland, Holloman, some of these more experienced guys right now. This is a guy who you can also build around for next year. And I think that's going to factor into this as well, because we know you have to go into it trying to retain some of your key pieces for the following year. And I think he's in that mold as well. So I'm with you, man. I think Terrance Arceneaux, one of the higher floor players on the roster for NC State, and it's going to lead to him having a big role for the Wolfpack this year. So we're going to continue rolling through our 5 questions feature. Like I always say, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe here at Inside Pack Sports on YouTube, and also check out the website www.insidepacksports.com for the latest information on NC State athletics.